Hello, 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 everybody. I Let me click on here. Good, good. I had a bunch of stuff on my screen. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. My name is Leticia Campbell. I got my amazing co-host Meiyoko Taylor, and we do this show every single week. We're calling it the Your Brand, Your Breakthrough Show until we come with a different name, right? But today we got a really good topic. We're going to be diving into hobbies versus high performing businesses. As we were talking earlier today, Miyoko, I was going back and thinking about when I first left my job, what about 8 years ago, and I remember the week I was excited. I gave my notice. I did my 2 weeks, notice and everything. 'Cause I, wanted to leave on a positive note. And then my last day came. They had a big party for me, and then a week after, I was just sitting here like, okay, what do I do now? It was crazy, and I don't know if I'm describing it well, but I just felt like, when you reach the milestone, and now you're like, okay, what's next? And you're like,
Mhm.
you don't have a boss. My thing was, I didn't have a supervisor or a director or
Right.
a district leader. There's different levels of bosses you have and different titles.
Mhm.
I didn't have the demands of the people in the office. So it wasn't no more a requirement for me to meet a standard that somebody else set. I didn't
Right.
have my standard set when I left my job. The goal was just to leave. So
Mm.
for that, I would say month or two or so, like I was doing a lot of stuff on social media, but I was treating my business for the 2 months after I left my job like a hobby. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I didn't figure out my way. I was literally sitting here like, all right, what do I do?
Mhm.
I didn't have to wake up early. I didn't have to fight through traffic, none of that stuff. So I know for those of you who are watching, and I know you can share your story with that, Miyoko, that was also the similar stories to that as well. How about you, Miyoko?
Well, somebody told me a long time ago, the best part about having your own business is your own boss. The worst part about having your own business is that you're your own boss. Now let that sink in for a second. Because when you work for somebody else, you show up and you do a particular amount of work, you're going to get paid no matter what. Mistakes, no mistakes, you're still going to get paid. As a business person and as an entrepreneur, you don't put in the work, you ain't getting paid. You ain't getting paid, you ain't making no money. You ain't making no money, you know how the rest goes. So, what I've learned the hard way, um, it's like with anything, you get out whatever you put into it. But if you're so accustomed to working and having a job to where you're receiving a check regardless of what you do, so maybe you're just kind of coasting. Maybe you do your job throughout the day and it's pretty decent. It's to quality standards. You're going to get paid. Now as an entrepreneur, you're doing stuff you're putting in a little bit of effort. It's not going to fly because you are the system. So your system works as hard as you do. So in the beginning, they tell you that you have to really, really put in the work and build the systems and get the support and all those particular things. And it's so easy to say, you know what? Instead of doing this, I'm gonna watch Netflix. You know what? Instead of actually studying my craft or taking a course or something like that, you know what? I'm actually gonna go to the movies. I feel like watching a movie. Maybe I'll take somebody out on a date. All those things that all those normal things that people do. But what you're not realizing is when you're spending that time doing all that, they got their check. They have a regular job, so they're getting paid regardless. And then reality hits like, man, if I don't really take responsibility for, my own income and my own enterprise, you know, this is really going to be bad. And I think that's when reality hits. And this is why a lot of people drop out of it very early because they don't really understand the discipline and the mindset and the consistency that you have to have. Now, this is regardless of, and this is what I really learned the hard way, regardless of life situations. Like if you do not have systems and processes and things like that set up, and even when you do, remember If you're not putting any energy into your business, it affects your business. You
Mhm.
are the one that writes the checks. You are the one that gets paid.
Right.
You are in charge of the marketing. You are in charge of the sales. You are in
Mhm.
charge of the administration. You are in charge of the taxes. You're in charge
Yep.
of those things.
Yep.
And what I mean is, you can delegate all those things, but you are at the end of the day, nothing still moves without your say so.
Mhm.
And that's a beautiful thing when it's set up correctly, but it can also work against you if you're not really utilizing yourself and your time correctly, and you're not being intentional about growing your business. Those are some of the things that I really, really learned, and some of those I learned the very hard way. Life experiences came, and you may go through certain ups and downs and your emotions and things like that. But if you don't have, hey, LaShawn, if you don't have a system or a process set up, then after the smoke clears and you kind of get back on your feet, it's just like, oh man.
Mhm.
You look at the bank account, you're like, wait a second, what happened?
Right. Right.
What happened is you happen. You
Yep.
have, so this is why it can't be a hobby.
Nope.
You cannot have a high performing business and have a hobby mindset. It's just not going to work. Not going to work. If you treat this like a hobby, you'll be done within a year.
Man, listen. You touched on so many points, which bring us to our very first topic about mindset. Now, I don't know if you, Miyoko, has been watching the news lately. Me personally, I don't watch the news all the time. I really don't. I try not to get into that black hole. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on with the federal workers right now, right? And even
Mhm.
thinking about that whole industry, when I was in college, that was the number one thing that they'll tell you. Oh, you get a federal job, you're always going to have a job. You're always going to have a check.
Mhm.
And it was like something that was embedded, and now this changed, right? So I've spoken to clients recently that they don't have a check coming in, they don't know, hey Stephanie, they don't know what's about to happen. and
Mhm.
i and I'm preaching now heavily on shifting your mindset,
Mhm.
right? Shifting your mindset, because now they have to go from their business just being sort of a side hustle, a hobby thing, to now it's like, all right, I'm not getting my check from my job no more, but guess what, the rent still due, the like companies still put their money, the bills are still coming in. And so now they're getting into survival mode. And one of the things we want you guys to stop doing is stop surviving in and living in that survival mode. We know that that is what's happening right now is real. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Years ago when the real estate market crashed, we all got laid off. It was
Right.
on April Fools. I never forget it. I thought they were joking. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And we were all like, okay, what are we gonna do next? But you get into that survival mode, that pressure, and then you get into that self-doubt. Like, what do you have to say to that, Miyoko?
I feel like a lot of people have side hustles, but they don't have systems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody's getting something to supplement income, but nobody's talking about, all right, so what's the system that's going to keep this thing going?
Right.
There's so many. We live in a country where there's so many different ways to make money, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, what it does is it opens us up to a lot of distractions.
Yep.
So one day you can think about e-commerce, starting your own web store online. Then the next day you can think about being a coach. Then the next day, like, you can think about selling t-shirts. Then the
Right.
next day you can think about becoming an author. The next day, you get my point. It's like it's so
Yep.
many options and avenue where you start having shiny object syndrome, and you
Mm-hmm.
start going from one place to the next instead of saying, you know what, if I'm going to do this, what's the plan? What's going to be my system? Is this going to be something that I just continue to do to supplement me being at work, or is it something that I want to do that's going to completely move me from that to a place where I don't have to go back to where I don't want to be?
Right.
You have to have that particular mindset, because to me, when people say, "Oh, I got a side hustle," that to me is just like, I want to stick my toe in the water,
Yep.
but that's as much as I'm going to stick in there.
Yep. You're limiting yourself.
When people say side hustle, that's what I immediately I get. Oh, I got a little side hustle. It's not something that they're completely committed to.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And I think that particular mindset is why people don't actually particularly grow in their business.
Yep.
Um, and I want to say, since we're talking about mindset shift, here's another mindset shift you have to have. Like, it's funny because my mother would always tell me, she said, "Man, you help a lot of people. Like, people are always calling your phone,
Yep.
and you're always giving people advice, and you ain't getting no money from it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it used to annoy me because I'm just like, I'm doing it out of the kindness of my heart. But what she was trying to say is, listen, that ain't paying none of your bills.
Yep.
So I had to really develop the mindset, like, wait a second here. I get paid based on what I deliver from my own mindset and my own
Yep.
experiences. So that's my intellectual property.
Yep.
Every time I talk to somebody and somebody's giving me an advice, or I'm giving somebody advice in regards to a service, business, whatever, that's intellectual property that I'm continuing to spill out on demand. So
Yep.
in exchange for that value, you should be getting some currency from it. So you have to
Yep.
really shift your mindset, because we like to do things as coaches and service providers to where we're helping people, and that's great. But at the end of the day, this is a business.
Yes, it is.
This is a business, and you're giving away advice and they're gaining value. But at the end of the day, you're worrying about your bills being paid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the next mindset. You have to treat this like a business.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yep.
You know, I used to be very, very burnt out, man. Just trying to put out everybody else's fires when your own house is burning down.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
um, so you have to change that mindset. You have to think like a business, and it's a lot more difficult for those of you that are going into life coaching or want to be a life coach or any type of coach. You got to understand that at the end of the day, you're passionate about it, but it still is a service that you are
Right.
providing.
Right.
So you have to treat it as such. And I think
Right.
that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people do not succeed as entrepreneurs and business owners is at some point they stop treating what they do as a business, or they never did it
Absolutely.
to be anything.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. My dad, rest in peace, he used to say it takes money to make money. He had his own business, and that's how it was. And you mentioned something about you know, your intellectual property. I call it like your mental real estate. Before I started to get into coaching, I was giving away all of my intellectual property for free. It wasn't until a coach came and said, "Hey, this is a class. You need to charge for this. You need to really monetize this," until I started to say, then I asked myself, will anybody pay for this to be, but I'm like, well, if they're sitting listening, heck yeah, they'll pay for it. And once you put a price on your mental real estate, the sky's the limit for you. And the only thing that's going to get in your way is yourself, right? The
Right.
only thing that's going to get in the way of yourself, you know, you got to lead like a CEO, not an employee. When I left my corporate job, like I said, 2 months, I was running my business like an employee. I was just like waiting for somebody to tell me something to do. You know what I mean? When, like you said before, you're in charge. The buck starts and stops with you.
Right.
So immediately that's when I hired Therese. As my one of my head VAs. I had VAs before that, but I started to really hone in on explain to her what my vision is, what I want to focus on every week, and things like that. Operating like a CEO. And guys, listen, you got to invest in yourself. You just do. I know, Miyoko, you and I talked about this yesterday. It's about, okay, these people need what it is that we're offering, but are they willing to invest in themselves? And you, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you have to invest in you. You have to invest in your business. It's just a must. Your
Right.
time, your income, your mindset, right? Your energy, all that has to be invested.
Well, and you mentioned something too. We can talk about mindset this whole segment, but
Yeah.
I a lot of people start businesses and they still have an employee mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, you clock in, clock out, get a particular work done, and you're done for the day. It's not like that when you start a business and you're
Mm-mm,
in business for yourself.
mm-mm.
I mean, sometimes you and I have conversations at 10, 11 o'clock at night about offers,
Yes.
graphics.
Still, after this, we're going to talk about.
Right. We got a call later on. This is full
Yeah.
transparency. We got a call
Yeah.
later on because we want to do something in New York again. in the month of December.
Yep.
And there's some other
Mhm.
things we're discussing. Like so
Yep.
it's it's a freedom, but at the same time, not everybody can handle that freedom.
Not everybody can. Not everybody can. It's that, yes, Stephanie said, mindset shift is key to a successful business. Absolutely, it is. You got to shift that. And you got to be around people. I was on Sunday, our pastor was talking about proximity. It's
Hmm.
like, who are you? Who are you around right now that is also influencing your mindset? Like, you could be the most strongest person out there, but if you're around the wrong people, it's going to definitely influence your mindset in a negative way. If you're around the
Every
wrong
time.
people every
Every
time.
time.
Let's move on to the next one because, like Meiyoko said, we can that one slide could be the whole show. But we want to dive into the power of systems and framework. Like Meiyoko said, we're always talking about systems and framework. We're always tweaking things out. We're still early in this your brand, your breakthrough brand, right? So it's those constant conversation. We talked earlier about, hey, let's go back to basics. Systems do create consistency. You got to be consistent, but you got to have systems to do that, right? And you shared
Right.
about that more earlier.
So I think for me, if I could go back, this would be the number one thing for me.
Oh yes, me too.
I think I was kind of midway in the game when somebody told me like, "What's your system? Like, what's your
Hmm.
process? Like, what's your
Yes.
framework?" And I'm like, "What?"
You
I'm
said
like,
it.
"I just coach people. I get on. I pray before I coach, and the
Yes, you
the the
do.
transformation happens, and that's it." And then they're like, "Okay, do you have a system to how to deliver that at scale?" And I'm like, "What are they talking about?" Because I was spending so much time and energy doing some of the same things with different people. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? So that really, really hit me. I'm just like, what do
Hmm.
you mean by systems? So if it was anything, it would definitely first and foremost, I would prioritize my system.
That's right.
Like before I even talk to anybody, before I even offer services to anybody, what is going to be my customer journey? What I mean by that is, all right, type of client,
Hmm.
what I'm offering them,
Yep.
how I'm going to present it to them. Like, let me give you an example. So, let's say my type of clients were coaches, right, and other
Right.
service providers.
Right.
I know that. So, all right, I'm gonna hone in on them. How do I want to reach them? Maybe I'll go into a DM or send them a message, or do an ad, whatever the case may is. This is part of my system. So they reach out to me. I get them on a Zoom call. Maybe it was for 15 minutes. Maybe it's a discovery call, right? From that call, I'll assess whatever they need, talk about their problems. If it makes sense, I'll kind of show them, okay, here's how I can help you. I'll do da 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 da. Tell them exactly what it is that I'm going to do. Maybe present an offer to them then present a way for them to actually go to the offer, learn more about it. And if they're interested, maybe we hop on another call where they can actually just click the link, pay the money,
Hmm.
sign up, and then we're talking about the onboarding process.
That's right.
That's a system. You got to know exactly what is your ground zero to the sale, delivering what you promised,
Hmm.
and now nurturing that, consistently nurturing that person. So as
Right.
they grow, maybe you're building more products and services to kind of service them at a different point in their business now.
Hmm.
That's a
Hmm.
system. That's something that you really should know
Yep.
before you really start to build your business. Lay
Right.
it all
Right.
out. As an entrepreneur, business owners and entrepreneurs are not the same, for one.
Mm.
Okay. Um, that's a whole nother topic. Maybe we should do that.
Yes.
Um,
Write that
so
down.
so here's the thing. You have to know exactly, you have to actually know how you're going to get your client, why it's going to work, when exactly to all present the offer to them.
Right.
You got to anticipate what they're going to need along their journey. These are the important things. This is how you have a system in place. You've got to anticipate exactly what your ideal audience wants. So the reason why I mentioned business owners because they tell you create a business plan, right?
Yep.
And the business plan is, oh, here's the demographics, here's the product, here's what I'm going
Hmm.
to do.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you, create the system.
Yes.
Business plan, you can lay all that stuff out. The system is what's going to make you your money.
That's right.
The systems is what's going to generate leads. Your basic business plan, when people teach you how to do a business plan, it's a lot of generic towards the demographics, how much money you want to make, how
Mm-hmm.
much do they make, what's
Mm-hmm.
your product,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Set your system up.
Yeah.
That's
You
the
got to
important
do that.
thing. Sarah is what
Yeah.
I would have loved to know from the very beginning of everything.
Yeah. Structure and scalability. You said this to me one time last year, where if your business, if every part of your business requires you, it's going to be hard for you to scale.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I have to say, when you got the structure in place, when you got the systems in place, you're able to really, if you need to take time away from your business, or if you need to focus on more high level projects in your business, you're going to be able to do that when you have all your systems set in place, when your structure is set. Some of us can't walk away from our businesses for a month or two. That's a problem, right? Some of us, if we get sick, or something happens with social media, it affects our traffic building and our bank account. That's a problem. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So, you know, we're going to definitely on another show talk about, the difference between entrepreneurship and business. But you guys really got to look at, like, are you building a business that is going to be like a anchor for you, or are you building something that is going to scale, that you can literally say, hey, let me spend money on ads and let the cash flow comes in? Or is every part of your business requires you physically to move things along, you know. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. So let's talk about automation. This is like one of my favorite topics, right?
There
Because
you
as a
go.
mother of
This
five,
is this is
yes, I need to buy back my time all the time. I'm even like creating some things, that I'm trying to say I gotta buy
he
back my time.
drives me nuts with the emails, y'all.
Yes, I love emails. I love it. I love communicating through emails. It's great. You know what I'm saying? Automation is like those repetitive tasks that you may not feel like doing. And guys, automation includes a system, and for most of us, it includes a system and a person. So you can have hire people, a team of people to automate things, and they physically have to do that, whether you have somebody that's going to do your discovery calls for you, and then if that lead looks promising, they'll say, hey, this person is ready to speak to you. You may have systems in place like a CRM or things like that that actually takes people along your sales process, your nurturing process, right? So it's going to create more impact. Automation helps you create more impact. It helps you to really leverage yourself as a leader. It's part of technology. I know some of y'all said, I was on a phone call with a client the other day. She was like, I don't like technology. You got to fall in love with technology, y'all. I mean, y'all got to get out of that thing of the fact that it's such a huge task. You got to let it work for you. Like, I'm taking a certification class right now, and yes, it's super long, and I'm going from video to video, but it's all to just learn this new automation system that I'm really excited about, that Meiyoko recently introduced me to. And you guys got to get excited. You got to look at your business, like your automation, like a machine. It's your back end machine, and you got to constantly automate. You got to look at it and say, okay, where are the gaps? Where are the holes? Let's tweak this. Let me change this. Things like that. It's not complicated, right?
No,
It's
no.
not. But if you don't sit down first and figure out, well, what is your process? What is your what was the word you said before this? We were on the phone earlier. You said your customer journey, right?
Yeah, your customer journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure I quote you right. Your customer journey. If you don't have that written down yet,
And your conversion system.
your conversion system. You got to have your own conversion system. I know some of y'all in life insurance, some of y'all in coaching, some of y'all have are part of different affiliation companies, and you may see things that may work for other people, but you got to have your own that works for you, right? You may not have the time to talk to 50 people a week or 100 people a week, but you
Hmm.
may have time to say, let me make a quick video, right? Put that on a conversion system and let them watch that. And then once they come to me, they're already aware of what their problem that they need a solution for,
Right.
right? Because you got to discover and develop one that works for you. Miyoko and I are always talking about elevating our automation system. We need to really like that's one thing we got to really tap into for the end of the year, have like a really concrete one. And all of you have to make that, so the automation is something that you're struggling with. You have not sit down and wrote down what is your conversion system yet, and you got to sit down and do that. Whether you make it like an ascension model or a descension model, right? However you want to do it, you got to sit down and create that. I think for our next event, we got to talk about that: ascension models, descension models, those things. I don't think people really visually understand what that means and how it can actually help them. You
Right.
know, if that's you guys, go ahead and type me in the chat. But automation is definitely going to help you to buy back your time. Our time, as entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever you want to call yourself, CEO, your time is so important. It really, really is. And not to say you're going to spend less time on your business when you're making an automation system, because y'all, business is what it is. You gotta put your time, energy, and effort into it, right? Those people that tell you, okay, I saw this ad the other day. This person said, oh, if you work your business 1 hour a week, where like, I got these people
Right.
smoking something. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Guys, do not fall into that shiny object effect or that delusion of what people like to tell you about systems and automation and mindset shift and things like that. You have to put in the work, and put in the work into your automation is definitely going to help you. Hey, Marlena, is definitely going to help you out tremendously,
Yep.
right? Tremendously. Yes. Yep, yep, yep. That's all we have for y'all today. That's really all we have for you guys today. We really want to extend this more. I know Meiyoko and I are going to discuss this later on today, but please be on the lookout, guys, for a masterclass webinar. We're not sure what we want to call it yet, that we want to have coming up for you guys for November. So if automation, systems, and mindset is a struggle for you, let us know in the chat. What are some of the things that is a difficulty to you?
And
Yeah, go ahead.
and let us know what it is that you want to learn.
Yes.
In regards to what personal branding and what we've been talking about, mindset, emotional intelligence. Just give us some feedback, because
Hmm.
the thing is, if you're not growing, if you're not developing, um, you have access to us.
Right.
So we're here to help you.
Right.
As much as this is a business, you still want to gain results from what it is that you're being taught, and we want you to implement. We just don't want you to listen to us and say, "Hey, that works." We want to
Right.
make sure that you're implementing the things that we actually talk about as well.
Hmm. Want you to listen and take action. And that's what's so important. I always keep joking around how I want to take down some of these lives, but we know that what we are explaining to you guys and sharing, you can literally take action on right after this. And that's an amazing feeling to have while we show up on a consistent basis. All right. So listen, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Like Miyoko said, please share what do you want to learn about systems automation, emotional intelligence. Go ahead and share it in the chat. We would love to hear it and create something amazing for you guys to help you move forward. But you guys continue to enjoy your day, and we see y'all later. Bye,
All right.
guys.